Hey guys, welcome back for another episode of the Suited Shootist. Doing something a little different this week. We are going to be doing some gear discussion, but more on the wardrobe side of things because it's October, so we are squarely in boot weather. And I wanted to touch on basically the two big brands that you see advertised a lot in your social media feed and on various style channels. So, what I mentioned is that I actually have experience now with both Thursday Boot and Beckett Simonon. So I'm going to give you just my impressions. Start off with Thursday Boot. I think I first saw them mentioned on Real Men, Real Style, Antonio Centeno's channel. If you're not following him, you should. He's got some great content out there. And he was actually basically one of the channels that helped me jumpstart improving my own sense of style. So definitely a great resource. And so Thursday Boot is one of those direct-to-consumer brands where I believe they're manufactured in Mexico. And, the idea being is that you are getting a higher quality boot than if you were to buy from a brick and mortar retail. I am not a boot expert. I am not a leather expert. So I'm just going to give you my layman's impressions here. This is their cap toe. I think they call it the Captain. I picked this one up actually used on eBay, and I think I paid maybe 120 bucks for it. There's a reason why I'm such a huge fan of consignment, because I think basically I paid 50 cents on the dollar for these. Super comfortable, well constructed. I don't wear them so frequently that I've had to resole them yet, but they can be recrafted. So this was my second pair of Thursdays. I also have a pair of their Chukkas. That was my foray into them, and that's why I bought a second pair. On the Beckett Simonon side, I was toying with the idea that I wanted a pair of Chelseas, and so when one of their offerings came up in kind of a mid-brown, I decided that I would snag it. So let's kind of look at what my thoughts are between the two. One of the big differences is that Beckett Simonon is typically done kind of pre-order. So whenever you purchase, they are then made in small batches, and you're not going to receive them until several months afterwards. I think I picked these up on part of their Black Friday sale and didn't get them until February. So if you need something quickly, not necessarily the way to go. Whereas with Thursday Boot, my understanding is that they actually carry inventory, so the time between purchase and actual arrival tends to be a bit shorter. Now, the soles on these are obviously very different because the Captain is designed to be a bit more of a rugged boot, whereas the Chelsea that I got has a leather sole. It's a little bit dressier, and I wanted something with a lower profile sole, so I'm not really comparing that so much. The biggest thing that stuck out to me was kind of the quality of the leather. And I believe that they both use Chrome Excel full grain leather. But for whatever reason, the finish on the Beckett Simonon just looks a little bit more artificial and vinyl-y. I'm hesitant to say that because it doesn't look cheap. It's not bad. It's not poorly made. But there's something just a little bit more organic about the leather on the Thursday Boot. It also just is a touch more supple. This is a little more structured. Some folks like that. Some folks don't. Again, kind of dealer's choice on that. There was I forget if it was one of the YouTube channel or TikTok channels that I follow. Basically, the guy cuts apart leather goods and kind of breaks down if he thinks that they're worth the money or not. There's a term that he uses, I believe it's corrected leather, where it's essentially additional layers of dye or wax on top of what is initially put into the animal hide. I'm not going to cut these apart and take some acetone to them. I get the sense that this might be a more heavily corrected leather than these. But again, that's purely eyeball. I don't know for sure. However, the other part is, from a price point, the Beckett Simonons generally are under 200 bucks, and some of the Thursday boots they're still going to be under $3, but these tend to be a little bit more cost effective than these. So if you're okay waiting and you are a little bit more kind of price conscious, Beckett Simonon is not a bad way to go. This is still infinitely better than most of the crap that you're going to buy at like DSW or most of the big box stores. It is still a recraftable sole. And, you know, again, I've worn these maybe a dozen times so far in the year, and they're still holding up great. They're comfortable, they fit well. I thankfully have not had to do any returns or exchanges with either of the companies, so I can't speak to how they are on the customer service side of things. But, you know, my biggest takeaway is if you are only going to buy one and, you know, you're not necessarily you're gonna shell out the coin for a Crockett and Jones or an Alden, you need something that is a little bit more price, you know, budget friendly. I'm still a big fan of the Thursday boots. If it's entry level and you're really still feeling things out, the Beckett Simonon is still a good way to go. I don't have any issue with them by any stretch of the imagination. And, you know, I went with these because I wasn't sure how I was going to like Chelsea boots. Basically, it just gives you the cowboy boot aesthetic without a full, you know, calf height. Basically, this is a roper for city slickers. But yeah, that's kind of my take. They're both good options, and I will say that one of the reasons why I went with the Beckett Simonon for the Chelsea, aside from the price point, was that you can see the burnishing on these. It's a bit darker at the toe than as it moves up the last, whereas the dye on the Thursday boots was a lot more homogeneous throughout. So, you know, there are some aesthetic considerations when it comes to that. Both decent options. I know where my preferences lie. I'd love to hear what your experiences have been, either with both boots and or shoes from these companies. I want to hear about that down in the comments. Other than that, if you've got any other footwear questions, let me know. There's a couple of series that I've been talking about for a while that I'm going to be picking back up, so stay tuned for those. Otherwise, hope everybody has a fantastic week. Stay dangerous and stay sharp.